Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, daughter had fun, Yagi, her brain.
Wo sind denn die pinke Trucks?
Keep going though, so she's gonna make was time.
Bitcoin, also wie viel Bitcoin wird uns helfen schleppen, alles zu der neue Location. Oh.
Area, you'll get my area. Keep on heading if you want, I drive it like a night. I don't wanna hear you, just time to know like I'm Bango, cutting my hair.
A piece of cake movies. Kannst aber bestellen, the letzte Minute, alle Locations, na gitte Preis.
Had ich bis last minute und keiner ist schon nicht available, Piece of Cake Movies is great 24 Schuhe. Professional, timely, in the wrappen is in special bubble bags.
Round of applause. Show them outside of the season platform. Thank you all very much. We begin in this melting furnace over here. This is where it all starts. Inside this melting furnace, there's 1,000 pounds of molten clear glass. It's at 2,050 degrees. You might be able to feel the heat up there in the front. That glass comes out of that furnace hotter than lava as it comes out of a volcano. And at that temperature, our glass has the consistency of honey. It has viscosity. So it's kind of like a liquid, but it's very slow moving, so we can control it. Our glass also has malleability, so we can shape it, trap some air into the end of the pipe, and you see that trapped air pressure has nowhere else to go but straight into the soft molten glass, and we get a bubble. With that bubble, we can make something pretty small, maybe like an ornament or a teacup. Who wants to see something pretty small? Okay, we got some hands. Who wants to see something a lot bigger? Oh, I want to see both. Okay. That's put us in a tricky position there. So we can plunge that bubble back into our furnace, turning in one direction to collect the material. And I'll show you all right here on our TV screens an animation of what it looks like inside of our melting furnace when we're collecting the material. So this is what Catherine just did. She plunged that bubble into a pool of molten glass. She was turning. And look at the TV screen. As we turn, the glass winds around the surface. Oh, and there it goes. But when we turn, we collect the material. There we're using a cherry wood block to shape, cool, and center the glass. And now a pad of wet newspaper. Using wood and newspaper to shape 2,000-degree glass. Something's not adding up there. By soaking those tools in water, the paper, the wood never really come into contact with the glass. They actually glide. The material glides along a bed of steam. So because the paper is soaked in water, whenever we use it, the water evaporates, we get that steam layer. It's the closest we can get to touching the glass with our hands using that newspaper pad. We can't actually feel any of the heat yet. That's an excellent question. So, with our furnaces, are we just melting clear glass? Can we change out the clear glass and add some color in there? How do our furnaces work? With our furnaces, right now, all we're using is clear glass. And it's easier for us, it's cheaper for us to use clear glass and then color it. Right now, I don't think we're adding any color to this piece. But if we wanted to add color, we could roll the molten glass when we first come out of the furnace through a bed of crushed up colored glass pieces. I have some here. So these are like little granules and shards of colored glass. And we roll through this bed and the colored glass pieces stick to the surface, kind of like sprinkles on an ice cream cone. We could melt color. A few summers back, we were using that secondary furnace to melt a cobalt blue. Cobalt blue is a pretty easy color to melt. All we need to do is add a tablespoon of cobalt to a 300-pound mixture of our silica sand, soda ash, and limestone, and then we get colored glass. So, spoiler, different metals give you different colors. The base ingredient in glass is silica. Silica by itself doesn't melt until 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit. So we have soda ash and limestone giving you soda lime glass to drop the melting temperature and stabilize the glass. But the company that we work with to get those colors is basically a factory in Germany. They've been manufacturing colors for over 500 years. They have a bunch of furnaces. So they can just use each one of them to melt different colors, and then they sell it to us. And it's a little bit easier to do that. We like to compare how we color the glass, like painting. Like you start with a white canvas, and then you add your color there. With us, the clear is a good starter canvas to use. Yeah. I'm sorry, there's two questions right now. My apologies. Yeah, sure. Are these painted? No. These are all colored using those crushed up colored glass pieces from earlier. So at the very start of the process, that's where we would be using those pieces. But there, Abigail and Catherine, you would have to shut that furnace down for probably 2 weeks to maybe even a month, because if there's glass in that furnace, we would have to empty all of the glass out before we could even send it down. Our furnaces run 24/7. We can't shut our furnaces down at the end of the night and turn them back up in the morning. If there's glass inside of them, we got to keep them running. If we were to turn off the furnace with glass inside of it, the crucible, the bowl that all the glass is held in, is made from a high fire ceramic that can withstand a lot of heat. That's a very expensive piece of equipment, so we would crack that bowl if we just turned it right off. So it's pretty timely, it's pretty costly to switch out pots, to switch out colors. Real quickly though, I do love all the questions and we can continue chatting. Real quickly, I want to talk about this move. This is an intense move, one of the most nerve-wracking moves. We're going to flip the piece over. Abigail has another pipe with a little bit of glass on the end of it. She can take it and apply it to the bottom of the piece, and Catherine's piece is still at 1,000 degrees, so with a little bit of water, we can rapidly cool it, creating a weak point, and with a light tap, it just breaks right free for a textbook transfer. Let's give it up for Catherine and Abigail. Of the vessel, we're now going to be able to heat up the opening to shape the top side of this pitcher or vase. While we reheat the opening, were there any more questions? Yeah. How do we? There's not a special camera. There's not a camera inside of the oven. There's a special type of glass that allows this view to be possible. So remember, silica sand by itself melts at a very high temperature, somewhere around 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit. And it gives us this glass here. This is called fused silica. This has that high melting temperature, way hotter than 2,000 degrees, so this glass can withstand the heat. And we mount it at the back wall of the oven, and then we place a camera behind the oven and just look straight through it. This is the same glass used on space shuttles because it can protect our astronauts from the heat of entering and leaving Earth's atmosphere. It was invented right here in Corning, New York in the 1930s. And it's also the same glass used for fiber optics. So not because of its high-speed internet, long-distance phone calls. So if you use your phone at all today, you got fused silica and glass to partially thank for that. Right here we're trimming some excess glass free from the opening of this vase. Did I miss anybody? No worries. Before it's too late, it's too cold. So Catherine has an incredible amount of finesse. Catherine is very good at working with the material of glass. So now we're going inside of that bubble, finishing out our shape. And then we're going to do a small wrap. A wrap around the waist of the piece. So over to Catherine, they can cut it to a fine point. Repeating that same exact move to go for another one. Very nicely done. And I want to say repeating that same exact move to go for the third. That's so awesome. This is, once again, Catherine's on a timer. Glass got a little bit too cold there, but here. And we cut it to make the wrap a little bit more even. Sometimes if you don't cut the wrap, you'll have a big connection. So when you pull it to a thin point, you'll see a big blotchy spot in the wrap itself. Oh, we're making it forward. Yeah. Going for that last one there. Very nicely done. So now we have these piece right here. The color finish is spotty. You can see the little dots from where the crushed up colored glass pieces were. If you want, well, one, you can just pick up more than 2 layers of grit. You can go to 3 or 4 layers. Kind of like painting the walls at your home. If you just get 1 layer, the color finish is going to be spotty. When you start to add more layers, it gets a little bit more even. But another way to get an even color finish is to use solid chunks of glass rod. Colored glass rod or bar. So I have some right here. Oh, we're doing a spout. You don't want to miss this. Never mind. Back to Catherine. We plunge a bit of molten glass onto the side walls of the bubble. Just in the area where we attach that molten glass, the walls are superheated. So when we pull that pipe back out, we're not going to pull out a solid rod, but we're going to pull out a hollow cavity or a tube. Form a pour spout, and this has to be one of the most trickiest moves in all of glass making, and Catherine's just making it look way too easy. Cutting that spout free. There. So that spout, we cut it so it's still closed. We can't pour anything out of it. So they're gonna take a moment. And then we're gonna use a little bit of thermal shock. When we broke the piece off of the blowpipe, we used a little bit of water. It looks like we might have had just a little bit of thermal shock around the neck. If you were watching closely, you may have seen some shards of glass pop off. A little bit too cold there, but we're still gonna finish this piece out and see if we can do the rest of the moves on this object. So we have our spout. Catherine and Abigail work together to bonk off a small end of that spout. So now you can pour, theoretically you'll be able to pour liquids, handle. So Abigail's gathering up another bit of glass once again. Shaping it up along our marburing table. Saw some movement in it. Catherine's juggling all these pieces. We'll attach the handle to the side of the piece. This is a very intense move. We can grab the end of the handle, twisting it. You can see how much movement is in there, and a move of finesse. Reapplying the handle back to the side of the piece for a beautiful handle. Let's give her a big round of applause for that move. That's very nicely done. Those handles are super tricky. So right there, Catherine has a small moment to make any final changes to that handle. And then right here, this is how we finish out our pieces of glass. We put a little bit of water onto the punty connection. Once again, that water creates a weak point, so with a very light tap, the piece breaks right free for it. That's gonna go off into our slow cool down oven. We've seen a little bit of that thermal shock earlier, but all of our pieces that we make, we slowly cool down in order to prevent any further cracking and breaking. If glass is cooled down too quickly, it begins to crack or explode. So we have those ovens. Those ovens are at 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Everything we make goes into those ovens at 5 p.m. We'll send that oven down from 1,000 degrees to room temperature over the course of 8 hours.
He was a physicist and worked all his life in quantum.
Der Sucher ist stark.
So let me point out to you all that there's a big screen on the wall behind me. 2 more of them up high in the back, and that's going to be a great place to look when the glass melts. That sodium comes from one of the ingredients in glass, which is called soda ash. That's a mineral. Soda flare is not going to harm your vision. It's okay to look at it if you want to. And while you're looking at it, the first thing that you'll notice is that is really hard to see through. That's why the camera comes in so handy. There is a filter on the camera lens that is filtering out the soda flare. It's the same filter I have in my eyeglasses and the same one that you see there in the center window. So take a look at that filter in the window and you'll notice it's not especially dark. So that's not exactly brightness that we're trying to get rid of, but a specific range of color wavelengths that are hard to see through. And so the filter is kind of purplish to filter out the yellowish, orangish glare. And you can notice up on the screen, the picture up there, it's kind of purple, and that's why. So when the glass is in the flame, you will have a clearer view of it. I don't have that on the screen. That's kind of the key though. Sometimes the glass is in the flame and sometimes it's not going to be in the flame. And so you will be able to just pick and choose your best view as we go along. You can look through any of the windows of the booth. So that means if you like
The castle will be weighed 200 meters with a calamari obligatory management. 12 pounds attention.
And so the reason that this is an all-electric stage is because there was a cruise ship company that approached Corning and asked for these exact demonstrations on a cruise ship. And a really poor idea is natural gas and open flame a boat in the middle of the ocean. So this hotshot came to an existence. There's less than 10 of these around the world, and it's because the electricity doesn't work quite as well as natural gas does. So while I said that this is a 2,100 degree reheating furnace, we've already dropped down in a little bit of temperature. If we start to open up those doors, it won't retain its heat as well, so if we start to make bigger pieces, sometimes I've seen it even drop down to 1,900 degrees. 200 degrees lower than we would like it to be at. So Tom is really showcasing his skill being able to work on this electric stage. if you've cooked on a gas stovetop versus an electric stovetop, I feel like that's a really good metaphor for how this works. But I'm preparing a lip wrap here for Tom. He's asked for 2 coats of this frit. The more times you roll in that frit, the denser that color becomes, the more uniform it becomes. And so we're gonna go for a nice 2 coats, and then I'll shape it up and present it to him. It's a wonderful way to add a little decoration to your cups and vessels. Is anyone curious about that camera that we have in a 2,000-degree oven? How are we putting a camera in such a hot space? But the camera is actually sitting behind the oven, and it's sitting behind a very extraordinary piece of glass. Tom, I'll be ready in like 2 seconds. That glass is called fused silica. So the glass we're using today is a soda lime glass. And if anyone knows the main ingredient of glass, you can shout it on out.
Limestone.
It is silica. It is silica sand, and we're mixing in soda ash and limestone to our silica sand. That's creating our soda lime glass. And those additive ingredients bring us down to that 2,100-degree temperature. And so, if you just melt that pure silica sand, you end up with a glass that has a melting temperature closer to 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit, allowing us to have a window in the back of our reheating chamber. We want it nice and parallel to the base of this piece. I've not told you what we're making yet, so continue to let it be a surprise until you can kind of figure it out. Would you like that on a 1/2 inch? Okay, we don't have it too. Awesome. And do you want that round? Awesome. So we are going to go for a handle, which may give this away of what we're making. If you have any glass that can withstand hot materials such as hot water, then it's more likely than not borosilicate glass. So instead of soda ash, it's using But if you go to our flame working demonstration, they're using borosilicate glass. They have a really hot flame, just like the one that Tom is using currently. It's a oxygen propane flame, so it's mixing together oxygen and propane. And that flame creates a temperature of about 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit. It's a wonderful way to spot heat in this hot shop. And then it's also a wonderful way to use little rods of glass to create tiny little sculptures. So if you like tiny little sculptures, I highly recommend our flame working demonstration. Glass is added. It really cannot be changed or taken off. So he takes it from me, attaches it down onto the side of his vessel, gives a little crimp, a little cut, and then he's going to catch this with some tweezers and let gravity kind of help him. Touches it back down onto the side of his vessel for a beautiful handle. You can already see that it's starting to set up, become pretty stiff. Why don't we give him a round of applause for that move? That is well done. Awesome. And then handles are one of the last things that we add to a piece, is they're going to be the first things that heat back up in that reheating chamber. But we can add some decorative bits. And Tom's asked for a little thumb patch on this mug. So I'm gonna roll in some green, because he's asked for a green thumb patch. I'll probably do 2 coats here. No? Okay, 1 coat of that green. I'll get it really nice and hot for Tom. And then our piece will be done. We'll have to break it free from that 4-foot rod. And then it's not going to be usable right away. We have to put it away into an oven sitting at 966 degrees Fahrenheit, because if we let it sit in this room temperature area, it would crack and break. And all of our hard work would be lost. So we put it into an oven sitting at that 966 degrees Fahrenheit, which is perfect temperature where that glass won't crack and break, and it also won't move around. And then, at the end of the day, we'll slowly in one piece and not break apart into a million little pieces. And then tomorrow morning, we can grab it out at room temperature in one piece, maybe put some cold milk in our mug or something else. Okay, he has time to make one little final adjustment. And I really don't want to touch this with my bare hands, I can tell you that much. So here's where that Kevlar comes into play. We have this fork, and it has these metal prongs here, but it's wrapped in Kevlar. So that's a very fire-resistant material. It's used in the firemen's suits. But we add a little bit of water to that connection, and then with a little tap, this should pop free just like that. Yeah. And then there's a little sharp spot from where that glass broke, so we'll just flame polish that up. So this is your last chance to take a look at Tom's beautiful mug before it goes away. And then tomorrow we'll see it. And Tom, what would you like to put in your mug? Milkshake! That is Tom. Alright, I saw a question up in the back.
We get it. We're not for everyone.
And we're okay with that.
More than okay with that.
Friday's for the doers,
The dreamers.
the small business owners who get things done.
Friday is the simplest platform to manage and pay your team.
They have a very simple onboarding process.
My employees love it. They clock in 1, 2, 3.
Friday is all about simplicity.
I don't need to think about it.
It makes my life so much easier.
Friday, empowering small businesses.